All right, guys, welcome back to another one. I'm the Gold Standard, and today we are getting into it with a wildly popular leader, BY Luffy. Now, this leader saw a ton of success at the end of OP-08, but fell off going into OP-09 because he does have a very tough matchup going into Blackbeard. But with Blackbeard not having the showing here in the West that he did in the East, BY Luffy is definitely back on the menu. So today we're going to learn how to play it, including the optimal game state, the general strategy, and the ideal curves going even and odd. Now, even if you're not planning to play BY Luffy, you should know how he works so that you can beat him. So guys, sit back, kick your feet up, and let's play some One Piece. Now, first things first, you may notice that I finally got a camera set up, and this is something I've wanted to add to this channel for a very long time, and finally got around to doing it. So guys, hey, I'm gonna be experimenting with different ways to use this camera in gameplays and, with the slides and stuff like that. If there's something you guys really like or don't like about it, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys think, but please guys, go easy on me because this is the first video with the camera involved. So now let's get into it with BY Luffy. So his leader ability reads, per the rules, your face-up life cards will be sent to the bottom of your deck instead of your hand. And then Dawn ×2, activate main once per turn. You may discard one card from your hand. If your life is at 0 cards, you may add up to 2 5-cost characters from your hand or trash to your life face up. So this is how you get into the situation where you have face-up life cards in your life that when your opponent attacks into them, they get bottom decked. And it's important to know that they do get bottom decked and that they don't go back to your hand. So the way that I'm going to explain how to use BY Luffy is I'm going to start with the board state that you're trying to create, and then I'm going to show you the general strategy for how you achieve that board state. So what you're trying to achieve with BY Luffy is what I call the Gecko Blender. Now, this is a point in the game where you can start chaining geckos back to back in conjunction with your leader ability, and it becomes nearly impossible for your opponents to get through your defenses. So first, let's take a look at what is the Gecko Blender. So the Gecko Blender is a combo that you can play starting from 10 Dawn. And you can play it as many times as you want as long as you have geckos in hand. Now you need some very specific criteria to get the most value out of this combo. First of all, you're gonna need either 0, 1, or 2 life cards face up in your life. And it's important that they're face up because you need to know what they are. Second, you're gonna need Gecko Moria in hand. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with this card, Gecko Moria is an 8-cost character with 9,000 power who reads, on play, choose up to 1 cost 4 or less and up to 1 cost 2 or less character from your trash. Play one of them standing and one of them rested. So you need at least one of these in hand, preferably 2 or 3. Then you need 2 of what we call the baby brothers in your trash. And these cards are a 2-cost, 2,000 power character with a 1k counter that reads, activate main, you may trash this character, reveal the top card of your life. If that card is a 5-cost Monkey D. Luffy card, you may play it. If you play it, up to one of your leaders gets plus 2,000 power until the end of your opponent's turn. So it's important to notice that it's plus 2,000 power until the end of your opponent's turn. And the Sabo one is the exact same thing, except it says a 5-cost Sabo. So you need at least 2 of these in trash. And then what you need are the corresponding older brothers, either in your hand or in trash. Because if you remember, our leader ability says that we can replace cards in life from trash or hand. And I will go over these 5-cost characters later in this video because they have specific uses and I don't want to cover that now. So that's the criteria. So as you can see in this setup, we have a 5-cost Punch Luffy in life face up. We are at 10 Dawn. We have Gecko in hand, and I've already preloaded the trash with the baby brothers. So what you're going to do is you're going to play down Gecko. You're gonna dig up 2 of the baby brothers from trash. So in this case, we'll take 1 Sabo and we'll take 1 Luffy. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this Luffy, activate his ability, deploy the one from my life to the board, and now my leader is a 7,000 power leader. Then I'm gonna attach 2 Dawn to the leader, use his ability. We'll trash one of the 5 costs that we're gonna use because you're gonna load it into life anyway, so you might as well just use that as the card you're gonna discard. So we'll take Sabo in this case. And then what we're gonna load in life is the first card you pick is gonna go down first, and the second card is gonna go down on top of that. So let's take Luffy and then Sabo. And then finally what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the baby brother Sabo, activate his ability, deploy that. We have to trash 2 cards from his ability. And now this is the board state that you're trying to create. Because what you've done is you've played an 8-cost Gecko Moria, you have 2 of the 5-cost brothers, you have a 9,000 power leader who is actually an 11k swinger because he has 2 Dawn attached to him. and then you have one more life. And if we look at that process, you can repeat that turn after turn, because a lot of times what they'll do is attack in, and say this case they have Shanks. We can just use our blocker, and then on the next turn we can recycle it with another Gecko. And so this is what I mean by the Gecko blender, guys, because once you get into this board state, you can just chain Geckos back to back to back, and you'll just stay at one life. So now that you know what this looks like and how to do it, let's go through the general strategy for achieving this board state. And we'll look at the corresponding cards in the deck that help you achieve that. So up first in the early game, and this is turns 1 through 3, whether you're going even or odd. The first thing you're always going to do is you're going to use your searchers or card draw to find the cards you need. Now, the searchers you're going to use to find either the little brothers or the corresponding big brothers that you don't already have in hand. And the card draw is because you're trying to find Gecko Moria and maybe sometimes Rygo. So let's take a look at what options you have for this. So up first under searchers, you have the 1 cost 2000 power Garp, who is a 1k counter that says on play, look at the top 5 cards from your deck and reveal up to 1 Sabo, Ace, or Monkey D. Luffy with a cost of 5 or less and add it to your hand. Then place the rest at the bottom of your deck. So you can find any of the 5 costs and you can find any of the 2 cost baby brothers with this. And he is also a character, so you are developing a body. This is the 1 cost 3 brothers bond event, and it reads the exact same thing. Look at the top 5, pull a Sabo, Ace, or Luffy that is a 5 cost or less, and put the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. The only difference is that this has a trigger, so you can trigger it from life, and you are not developing a body with this. You're typically going to try and get these out early so that you can find the pieces that you're missing. Now, you do want to be careful because it is very easy to bottom deck a Gecko Moria when you are using a lot of these searchers. So just be wary that if you don't have a Gecko in hand, sometimes it might not be useful to actually play one of these searchers if you have a lot of the other pieces already. Now up next we have card management. First we have 3 just outright draw options in this deck. So up first we have the 5 cost Luffy, who is a 6000 power character with a 1k counter that reads activate main. You may trash this character if you have 2 or less life cards. KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less and then draw a card. And so typically you actually want to be using this very often, and like at times I'll use it to even remove like a searcher or something on their board just because of the card draw, and also because, as we've mentioned, with the leader ability and with Gecko, you can recycle this card very easily. And then his trigger reads KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. So you can trigger this guy from life and just body a 4 cost or less. Next up we have the 4 cost 5k Kuzan, who has no counter but reads on play draw 1 card, just outright draw a card, and then when attacking give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 4 cost during this turn. So he has a reduction ability as well. And then finally in the outright draw category, we have the 3 cost 2000 power Nami, who has a 1k counter and is a blocker, who reads on play, if you have 6 or less cards in your hand and a character with 8 cost or more, draw 1 card. So this one you're typically trying to play from trash with your Gecko, because then you get the card draw, you develop a blocker, and you develop Gecko. You can just drop this as a blocker if you need it, but typically it's played with Gecko. And then we have 1 filter option, and this card is critical to this deck because this helps you filter out the cards you don't need from hand to find Gecko Morias, Rygos, Kid Brothers, Big Brothers, all the things you need. And this is the 5 cost 6k Sabo, who is a 1k counter, also a blocker, and reads on play, none of your characters can be KO'd by effects until the start of your opponent's next turn, and then draw 2 cards and trash 2 cards from your hand. So he has filter, and then he also has the added bonus of protecting your board until the end of your opponent's next turn. So typically what you do is you play Sabo down at the end of your turn so that he protects everything else that you've played that turn. So we're still in the early game. Those were your searchers and card draw options. Next, if you're being starved, you're going to take your own life. And this is a critical component of this deck because what so many people do playing into BY Luffy is they starve you. And by starving you, I mean that they don't attack into you so that you don't get the cards from your life. And it makes it harder for you to get into the situation where you can activate your leader ability. So let's look at the different options you have for taking your own life. So in the form of life manipulation, the most important card you're going to have is the 5 cost 6k Monkey D. Luffy, who is also a 1k counter and reads activate main once per turn. This character gains plus 2000 power until the start of your next turn. And then if you have 1 or more life cards, draw 1 card and trash 1 card from the top of your life deck. So you could kind of consider this another way to draw cards, but you are trashing a life card, so you end up, net neutral, and there is a chance if you are looking for Gecko that Gecko could be in your life and you just pitched it into trash, so be careful about that. But this is the single most important card in your deck for controlling where you are at life, because if they are starving you, you can just keep taking your life with this card, and you don't even have to attack in. You can just keep it on the board, take your life, and not swing, and then they have to remove it through some form of direct removal. So this is your most important one. Next up, we have the 1 cost 1000 power Flampe, who is a 2k counter that reads, on play, you may add 1 card from the top or bottom of your life cards to your hand and then draw a card. And so she's technically another draw option. I didn't put her in the draw area because more importantly, she takes the life for you. And it's more often that you're doing it because you need to take that life card than because you just need to draw more cards. Now, she's the best option you have of these cheaper ones because she does give you card draw. Next up, we have the 2 cost 0 power Hiyori, who is a 2k counter and reads, on play, you may add 1 card from the top or bottom of your life cards to your hand, add up to 1 card from your hand to the top of your life cards. So basically what she's doing is she's taking a life card out and then switching it with another in your hand. So what you're doing is you can load one of the big brothers that you have in hand and then play out one of the little brothers and use it to buff your leader. And then finally, we have the 1 cost 0k Makino, who is another 2k counter and reads, on play, you may add 1 card from the top or bottom of your life cards to your hand, look at your life cards, and then place them back into your life in any order. So she's great into certain decks that are starving you. Like for instance, Blackbeard, she's very nice to have in because if you play her on turn 1 or 2, you can look at all your life cards. You can organize it so that one of your 5 costs, if it is in life, is at the bottom of your life. And then you can set up the situation where you can start triggering your leader ability, buffing yourself to 9k, and then cycling into that 1 life position again and again. Not playing Gecko though, because remember that Blackbeard doesn't let you play on play, so Gecko is useless in that matchup. Anyway, just an example of what Makino is good for. So those are all of your options for taking your own life if you are being starved. Now, if you're not being starved, you are going to play the Sabo blocker, who we already talked about, but is a blocker, gives you the card filtering. And so it's nice to establish in these early turns if they are kind of being aggressive, because now you have a pretty big blocker and you've also filtered some cards, allowing you to find the things you need. And then finally, if we can, we're going to do a little bit of board control in the form of Rocket Luffy. But real quick, since we're talking about board control, let's look at the different options we have. So first we have the 5 cost Rocket Luffy, and we've already talked about this one. He KOs a 4 cost and draws a card. We also have the 6 cost Kingdom Come, who just KOs up to one of your opponent's characters and then trash cards from the top of your life until you have 1 life card. So if you have like 4 life and you play this, you'll trash all of your life cards down to 1. It can be useful. It can also hurt you. It just depends on, the situation. But it does get rid of 10 cost characters like Shanks and Blackbeard. And then to help these out, we have a couple cards for reduction. We already talked about Kuzan, who is a -4, but we also are playing this 4 cost Shirahoshi, who is a 0 power blocker that is a 1k counter and reads, on play, give up to one of your opponent's characters -4,000 cost during this turn. So both of these give -4 cost to your opponent's characters. And if you couple that with Rocket Luffy here, you can actually remove an 8 cost character so easily with this deck. So like a Rayleigh, even your opponent's Gecko, things like that. Also, both of these can be played off of Gecko as standing. So you can do things like get some card draw off of Kuzan if you need it, or play Shirahoshi as the 4 cost standing and play a baby Luffy as your 2 cost. And then you can use your 2 cost to trigger this from life if it's in there, and then use it to remove an 8 cost character while buffing your leader. So anyway, these are your removal and reduction options. Now, moving into the mid game, and these are turns 4 and 5. And realistically, we could have combined kind of both of these, the early game and mid game, into one big section, because they're all kind of trying to achieve the same thing, which is once you get into turns 4 and 5, this is when you have to choose the right time to awaken. And awaken is just, again, another One Piece slang for just when you use BY Luffy's ability to then become either a 7k leader or a 9k leader. And it's basically awakening because once you get there, you want to stay at that level the rest of the game. You don't ever want to come back down, because that's going to put you in a dangerous situation. So typically you don't want to do this at 7 dawn. You want to do it at 8, 9, and 10 dawn. And truthfully, the longer that you can postpone awakening, the better, because once you do awaken, all you're doing is pitching cards from your hand, because you have to discard a card for the leader ability. And then yes, you're recycling stuff from trash because of Gecko and your leader ability. But a lot of times when they attack in, you sometimes have to burn that life card from your life, things like that. And so you're losing cards every time you do use your leader ability. So again, the longer you can put it off, the better. Now here in the mid game, if you are at 10 dawn, this is when you start up the Gecko blender. And once you start the Gecko blender going, you do want to be recycling your Sabo blockers, because this is going to help you filter the cards you have to make sure that you can just keep the Gecko blender going. Finally, in the late game, and this is turns 5+, You're just going to set the Gecko blender to high, keep churning through your opponents, and they're either going to quit or you're going to win. You're going to create a wall of never-ending Sabo blockers because you're just like recycling the Sabos and they can't attack in. And then finally, maybe you squeeze a Raigo turn in if needed. There's a really good combo that you can play with Raigo, which I'm going to talk about in a separate video, so look out for that. But this is typically the time you would do that, is when you are at 10 Dawn. So that is kind of the bird's eye view of how you want to achieve getting yourself into the position where you use the Gecko blender. Now let's look at the ideal curves so that you know the exact steps to make that happen. So up first we have the even curve, and the reason we're starting with even is because ideally you do want to go second with this deck, and that's because you'll hit your 10 Dawn before your opponent does. So turn one, you're going to play one of, if not both searchers if they're in your hand, and ideally, you already have at least one Gecko in hand when you're using multiple searchers. Like I alluded to previously, it's very easy to bottom deck Geckos with these searchers. Now with these, you're either trying to find Kid Brothers or Big Brothers, whichever you don't have in hand. Next up on your 4 Dawn turn, you could play down one of your Little Brothers if you're playing into a deck that doesn't actually KO things, but I think more beneficial is to put your Kuzan down and get it ready for later turns, because not only do you get card draw, but if this card sticks, your opponents have a serious problem to deal with because of how it couples with Rocket Luffy. Turn 3, you're going to play one of your 5 costs. And again, it depends on, what your opponents are doing. You can play Sabo if they're being aggressive. You can play Rocket Luffy if you're already at 2 life and you want to KO something. And you can play Punch Luffy if they're starving you out and you need to start taking your own life. Now turn 4, and this is your 8 Dawn turn. Depending on the board state, this can be a very good turn to start awakening with your leader. And then finally, turn 5, this is your 10 Dawn turn, and this is when you can start using the Gecko Moria blender. So that is kind of a look at the even curve. And like I said before, the even curve is really the one you're trying to do. The only reason you wouldn't do an even curve is because you're playing into a deck that you want to prevent them from taking first. So up next, we have the ideal odd curve. And before we get into this, guys, if you are getting any value out of this video, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. We finally hit 1,000 subscribers, guys, and I can't thank you enough for all the support. It really is amazing. And guys, if you are looking for other ways to support the channel and you're already thinking of buying cards, I do have a TCG player link here that gives me a small percentage of whatever your purchase is. So currently we're sitting at almost $50 total in the account, guys. And my plan is that once I hit 100, I'm gonna buy a box of whatever the newest set is and give it away on the channel. So again, if you wanna use the code, great. If not, no hard feelings at all. I appreciate all the support you've all given me already. So thank you, and let's get back into it. All right, so this is the ideal odd curve, which is actually fairly different from the even curve, and you'll see why here shortly. So turn 1, same thing, we're gonna play a searcher. Again, watch out for bottom decking Geckos, but since you're only playing 1, it's probably a good idea to get one of these down. Turn 2 is a good time to get one of the baby brothers just set on the board. If not, just put all 3 Dawn on your leader and swing in. Turn 5, same thing, you're gonna play one of the big brothers, and it just depends on your situation. Punch if you're being starved, Rocket if you need some removal, and Sabo if you need some protection or card filtering. Now, turns 4 and 5 is where things start to get a little different. Typically, you don't want to awaken at 7 Dawn. And so I think a very good option for this turn is to play one of your little brothers if you haven't already earlier, and then play a Sabo blocker to defend everything on your board and, attack in with whatever else you have on the board. Because what this does is it sets the stage for your following turn, which is turn 5 and you're at 9 Dawn. So you're not quite able to use Gecko yet, but this is a perfectly good turn to awaken because you can use the same Hiyori combo that we used at 8 Dawn and buff your leader up to 9k and still have 1 life ready for the next turn, because the next turn, turn 6, you are going to be at 10 Dawn, and that's when you can start using the Gecko blender. And so yeah, that's the ideal odd curve, and if you can hit this, it's going to be very hard for any opponent to keep up with this. Cool, guys, that's all I've got for BY Luffy here. Now, I will admit this deck does take a little bit of practice to pilot, but if you remember that the entire strategy revolves around trying to set up the board state where you can play the Gecko blender, you'll be just fine. Oh, guys, and one thing about the gameplays is when I updated my sim, all of my gameplays didn't have a playmat. They have just this white background like this. So sorry, guys, all the BY Luffy gameplays have this, and I did not have time this week to reshoot them, so this is what we got. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it, and let's get into some gameplay. All right, we are in it with a purple Luffy, so we got to take first for sure. We have this, which will help. I'm gonna keep this because we do also have a Moria. Search for some other stuff here. What do we want? Another Rocket Luffy? I mean, we need the kid too. Yeah, we'll take the kid here. And the turn. Plays his Searcher, grabs an Onami blocker, standard. Well, I wouldn't say standard. He's looking for Sanguro, or Luffy Taro. I wonder, I'm just gonna swing because we'll see what he gets in play here. We do have a Shirahoshi Luffy combo so that we could potentially get rid of like a Luffy Taro or a Sanguro that way. It's kind of sucks because it's roundabout. It's like -8, but it is what it is. I do also like to attack on this because, I mean, they only really ramp once on the even curve, but that still gets him down to 3. Okay, so he's searching again. Sanguro or Luffy Taro? Well, Sanguro. Or Luffy Taro, yeah. Does he swing? Because now we can body this with this, which is nice. Yes, sir. We take that. Okay, so we can put this into play. So he is attacking into us, so we don't need to take our own life right here. The only reason... Nah, I'm not going to. Yeah, I think we're fine. So we're at 7 next turn. Yeah, all right. So 5, 6. So he could get us down to 1 life. I could Hiyori. It seems silly to awaken already, but we don't have like a ton of options. Let me think about this. So he swings 5, he swings 6. I'm not going to because he'll swing another one, which again doesn't really matter to me. Okay, so that's fine. We'll keep this in our back pocket. He does ramp here, so he goes to Luffy Taro into Sanguro. And here I think we have to, first we'll do this. Let me think about this for a second. Yeah, so let's go here. Trash that, we draw a card. Let's go 5 at life. We had 9 next turn. Painful, not 10. End the turn. So, I mean, he has some decent attacks here. We are 5K. If we go to 0, that's fine because then we can start doing, you know, shenanigans, Luffy shenanigans. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot in trash. Like, we don't have kids in trash and stuff. So it only goes 5 there. So yeah, we'll toss one of these in there. So we'll take one of these for sure. It just depends on which one. I think I'll probably counter the 6K with a Hiyori here. Yeah, and then we'll take this one. Maybe this one too, who knows? Who knows what he does here. Man might be crazy. If he plays another Luffy Taro, that's gonna suck. Yeah, we take that. No. Save it for now. Okay, he does play another Luffy Taro. Into his Orojoro. At least it's not another Sanguro. So he grabs a Gum Gum Giant there. Okay, so we do have to get rid of this. Faux show. What else do we have in trash? We only have one of these, which sucks because we don't have a Kid Sabo. So let's do this. Get a Kuzan. So we have, what, 3 Dawn to work with after a Raigo? So he probably uses his Gum Gum Giant here. He gives that to us. I need a Kid Sabo, like, pretty badly. Problem is that if we search, we're gonna bottom deck a Gecko too, since we've already been through all of our life. But is it worth it? I think it might be. We just get another Sabo instead. Painful. Take this because we do at least have 2 Kid Luffys that we can kind of juggle back and forth. So let's get one of those Luffy Taros out of here. We'll get this guy out of here. We'll go here, pitch. What do we want to pitch? I guess another Sabo. Pitch a Sabo in there. Let's go Sabo Luffy. Let's go here. Activate that. Let's use this to KO that. Man. I just want a Kid Sabo. So this is a 9 into 8. I think that's silly because 9 into 5 is good. It gets 2 cards out of hand, a Gum Gum Giant and something else, because they go up to 9 and then another card. So, I mean, sure, they use the Gum Gum Giant for more card draw, but I feel like this is decent. And also what we can do now, because we technically have 2 We have 2 kids in there. I can pitch one of these into trash, and we can get onto the Gecko train. If we drew a Sabo, a kid Sabo, that would be kind of nice. But that's, I mean, without Sabo right now, that's gonna be tough. So he goes 8 on 7, and then he's gonna go. What's he play here? Another Luffy Taro. I feel like I need to pitch this into trash and take the hit. I guess I could pitch both of these. Yeah, we'll pitch these 2. Bluff out that we don't have a 2K, maybe. We can also Gecko into Nami here. Draw another card off of that. It's something. Okay, 7 into life here. Nothing. Nothing at all. All right, fine with that. So we do this, we pitch this, play Gecko. We'll get Luffy. We'll get both these Luffys back. Play both of these out. Ah, man. But without Sabo, like, we are not in a good position. We really are not. So let's go here. I could Raigo into this now. Use this on life. That could be a play. That could be a play. 8 into 8 seems silly, so let's go 8 into 5. See if we can't maybe get the blocker. Yeah, because now we'll Raigo. Awaken with leader ability. I'm going to save Gecko because if I can chain Gecko next turn, I'll be able to recycle the Sabo and draw more cards. And I think that's more important than getting Gecko established right now. That's my plan. I could be wrong. Correct me in the comments if you'd like. Also, that got 2 2K counters out of their hand, so I'm kind of okay with that. What do we want to burn down? I guess it's got to be Luffy, huh? Let's go through and do this first. See what we can't do. Yeah, let's go here. Let's trash. I guess I'll load. Which one do I want to load? This could be helpful for later. Yeah, we'll load this one. So let's think about this. We got to go this and then this, and then we'll go here. We'll go here. Deploy. Trash 2. I mean, is another Raigo really going to help us? I mean, it could. It could. Because he still has those 10 drops. So let's pitch. Yeah, let's pitch both of these into trash. Keep our 2Ks. He is a... He's what? He's a 9 right now. So let's swing again on life. See if we can't get the blocker or if he just takes it. Doesn't really matter either way. Because we'll just Raigo this for the rest of it. He gives us the blocker. Man, best case scenario, guys. and end the turn. So now we have Sabos in trash. We have a Kid Sabo. We have Luffy. I've got another, I've got this. We're sort of in a decent position. We're not a 9K leader, but we're in just about optimal BY Luffy position. Just about. Okay, so he is going 8 here. He can go... We'll just use our blocker. Because I'm going to recycle that anyway. I don't know that I need... I guess I could... It's probably worth keeping 2 blockers now that I think about it, because they do have Uso Hachi. But... Okay, so he's just playing an out. I mean, he's... And we draw another Gecko, so, we're okay, guys. So let's see, we got to get a Sabo, and we get Kid Sabo and a Luffy. We use this. I could pop this, draw another card. Probably worth doing, honestly. We'll activate this real quick. Let's go here. Just blocks that. I mean, I'm down with that. I'm absolutely down with that. So let's go here. Let's trash. I guess we trash at 2K because I do think a Raigo could help us later. Let me think about the order of this real quick. So we want, I guess, Rocket Luffy on the bottom. Punch Luffy's probably fine. Let's go here. Deploy this. What do we trash? Definitely trash this. I mean, that gets more kids, but we're already on the loop, so kind of don't matter. Kind of don't matter at all. Even this, I'm kind of tempted to... We'll do this. Get rid of this. Draw this. Go 11. End the turn. So he's at 2. We have Gecko. We have our Punch Luffy. We have some threats. He could play. Yeah, he bails. Yep. I mean, once you get onto the Gecko train, it is just, people get pissed and they leave. GG's. That was a fun one. All right, we are in it with a Blackbeard, and I think I will take second. Yeah, we'll take second. We have some kids. I mean, I can search some more stuff. We don't have a Rygo. We don't have, I mean, a Makino would also go kind of nice right now. I'm gonna mulligan. Yeah, okay, this is better. We have a kid, a Rygo. Yeah, and we can play Kuzan on curve. No searchers, but I think I can make this work. Makino goes kind of hard in this matchup too, because you can stack that last life. And a lot of times there's a 5 cost like in here, and you can put that, you can put, you know, whatever associated baby you have in hand as your last life, because a lot of times they'll keep you at 1 life. Oh, this guy's attacking. Honestly, awesome. 2 geckos and Punch Luffy we already have, so we'll take Sabo. Cool. Punch Luffy's excellent in this matchup too, because you can take that last life. Okay, so he puts Doc in. It is what it is. So he's gonna get our Kuzan. That's fine. Okay, Van Auger comes down. Doc gets him. Checks out. Swings what, 5 here? Do I want to keep taking these weak hits though? Yeah, we'll take this one because I can use. Do we use this on Van Auger here, or do we save it? I feel like we should save it. Yeah. I'll save it because I have an idea for how I can get rid of this whole Van Auger situation. Okay, he does block out of that, but that's all right because we'll put this boy in, sack this, get rid of this, and draw a card. Okay, so he is getting his stage set. So we're gonna be at 8 Dawn next turn. So he black holes us again. I'd rather wait to awaken 1 more turn, but we might have to do it next turn. We'll see. I might also use this to draw some cards, like draw a another baby. We definitely need another baby. There's 11 here? Crazy. This time we will use it. There's our Makino. That's what I wanted from the get-go. Okay, do we awaken this turn? Probably not. We don't need to because we can awaken at 10. Let me see. We'll grab a kid here. Yeah, we grab a... Ooh, Kid Sabo could be good. We should just have it to recycle. Yeah, we'll take Kid Sabo here. I mean, I could awaken. It seems stupid to awaken right now, though, because we're at 5. So I could drop this Luffy in, and then he can swing on us next turn. So let me think about this. I can't... Yeah, because I can't play a kid. So let's... Yeah, we need to wait a turn to awaken. Yeah, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go 5. And then I'm going to drop in this Luffy here. Just so we have another attacker. Just takes that. Tempted to throw down a kid even here. But I will not. I will not. We'll throw this Luffy in. Yeah, we'll call it there. Because on this turn now, I can definitely awaken. Okay, so he's going after Luffy. -2, so what's he? Oh, Jack. Actually, solid choice, my friend. So I have the choice of attacking into Jack now. I mean, his hand is pretty soft, so I feel like that's not a terrible plan. Draws Vasco shot. He can't use that. Jack is going to be a 7. We are black holed. I mean, I could just flat out Rygo this guy. But I do think we should get... I feel like we should awaken and get this established because then I can Rygo him next turn and we can start juggling like our life. So we'll go there. This guy's useless now, so let me think about what we want to pitch. Let's load 2. Let's trash. Are we gonna load Sabo? I'd rather not load Sabo. So let me see what we've got in trash here. We've got 2 of these. So yeah, I'll definitely get one of, I'll probably load both of these. Yeah, so we'll keep Sabo for now. I mean, Kuzan might just be a better attacker at some point. We need a blocker, probably Garp here. Let's go double these. Let's go here. Let's knock this out, get this going. And he is what, a 9 on 8? So I could go 10 on 8 here, which I feel like is a pretty good move because it'll get a ton of counter potentially out of his hands. Yeah. And then this following turn, yeah, so this is fine because now we just Raigo this guy out of here. He makes this guy so he can't attack, but we'll attack with both of these still. Yeah, honestly, all of this is fine with me because then we can use baby Sabo here to play Sabo. So let's go ahead. Let me think about this. We'll take our life here. Yes, we'll get rid of this guy. We will take, let me think about this. Why isn't this letting me? Oh, because he's nullified. That's right. I forgot he's nullified. Probably loading Sabo there would have been good. But it doesn't matter now. We can just attack. Let's go, what, 5-6, 6-5? I forgot he was nullified. Yeah, let's go 6. Because even if he just drops another 10 drop, like, that's all right. In fact, actually, I'm going to put Kuzan in here because I'd rather have another attacker. He takes that, hoping for the trigger. Ooh, Black Spiral actually nullifies. Interesting, very interesting. Cool, good card. That's fine, nullified. It is what it is. Yeah, and I mean, our board is pretty good here. So he pretty much, I don't know, does he play a 10 drop? He's dropping that to use his stage. I mean, he just gets card draw here. I don't think he's got it. I mean, even if he 10 drops here, we just go in on it. Maybe draws a Vasco shot, Lafitte. I mean, he's just searching. Black holes, Kuzan, okay. 6, 8 on 6. Oh, and he did have the 10 drop, and he quit. Wow. Yeah, so we had it. That was cool. Well, GG's.